our species. Reminder, this is a zap and trap, people. Capture, not a kill. Any questions?
Brought to you by my self-published book, Rain. It is a psychological thriller about a group of young adults in a psych ward who get this new counselor that's trying to understand their mental illnesses and trying to understand them. But then the counselor shortly learns that these kids might not be crazy and that this place is actually making them crazy, all the while trying to figure out what's going on with him and his psychological demons and his problems. If you would like more information about this book, be sure to hit the link in the description box below. Supporting me and buying these books actually helps. So, Buffy Season 4, Episode 1, The Freshman. Opening scene, Buffy and Willow are in the cemetery discussing Buffy's schedule for classes. The monster they're looking for sees her, bow and arrow, and basically just eases on by. Buffy and Willow meet a guy who's in their psych class, and Buffy later on gets kicked out of psych class. Ends up meeting these 3 new vamps, and she visits Giles and finds out he has company. And his company is a black woman. Like, okay, Giles, we see you. Buffy has to start accepting reality, that everything is changing. And Xander spots Buffy, and they reunite. Buffy and friends defeat monsters, and later on, Giles shows up to help. And speaking of Giles, his name sounds like it's pronounced differently this season. I think it's spoken now in German. This episode was all about Buffy basically learning that she has to grow up and take care of herself. She was even being beaten up by the vamps at first, but ended up winning the battle in the end. This was an episode for me, but it was a new element, and Willow has matured a lot. She's practically a young teacher, student, star pupil. Episode 2, Living Conditions. Buffy isn't happy to have a roommate who's anal to her measure, but she ends up saving her from vamps without the girl noticing. She goes snooping in Buffy's stuff while she's gone and finds her stake and her bow and arrow. Next, she gets caught wearing Buffy's sweater, and she's just like, oh, you ruined my stuff, so I thought you wouldn't mind, and we're like sisters practically. Like, girl, no, you can't just go into someone's closet and wear their stuff. But then she has the nerve to put her name on everything in the fridge. Like, she was crazy. Buffy ends up having a nightmare about her soul being sucked from a demon and blood being poured down her throat. Next day, she tells her friends, Giles, Xander, and Oz capture her, and basically end up capturing her because they think she's possessed. And she, of course, gets free. She goes straight to her roommate, and turns out she was right. And indeed, a demon monster who was her roommate was the one who ended up being evil. Giles comes through, and Buffy ends up getting parts of her soul back, and the roommate demon basically has to go back to where she came from. So, episode 3, The Harsh Light of Day. So, Buffy and the new guy she met in line, they end up getting closer. Old people from previous seasons are back. We got Harmony, that cheerleader who appears, and she's a vamp, and she ends up biting Willow. And the girl Cordelia talked about, Anya. Speaking of Cordelia, I was wondering, like, where is she at? Next big reveal, Harmony, she ends up having a boyfriend, and it's Spike. But let's talk about how he treated her like crap. This man said, and I quote, I love syphilis more than I love you. Like, what? Buffy ends up sleeping with the new guy, and Xander and Anya sleep together. Spike, on the other hand, seems to hate his girlfriend. Then it turns out the new guy wasn't nice at all to Buffy. He basically was just playing her to get what he wanted. Turns out the guy got what he wanted from her, and he basically ended up playing her. Spike shows up and knocks Buffy out. They fight, and she grabs his ring, and he burns and runs back to the hole he crawled out of. Buffy ends up being really sad later on about it, and she's like basically blaming herself, and Willow basically tells her like, you didn't do anything wrong, like he's just a poop head. So episode 4, Fear Itself. They're talking about pumpkins, and Buffy's so sad about the guy. I do like that they're all good friends, and they basically respect one another, and no one's trying to get on anyone's partner or anything, despite what happened in the past. Oz shows how supportive he is, of course, because it's Oz. He's perfect. Ain't one thing wrong with him. Nothing. Yeah, Xander basically has matured, I think, because of the past 3 seasons. He was annoying, And Oz ends up activating this painted floor symbol. Willow gets upset with Buffy, and it's kind of like about time because she needed to be put in her place. She acted like a brat, and she basically told her like, "I'm not your lackey," basically like, "I'm not your sidekick." And the monster ends up turning into this cute small creature that they squash. Episode 5, Beer Bat. So opening scene, Buffy is fantasizing about this dusty boy that she used to talk to. Willow basically confronts him and gives her a story, well, his side of the story. And it's crazy because he really thought that he was going to finesse her and get her to feel sorry and play this little dumb fake story. And she's basically like, "What you think, I'm a fool?" Yeah, later on he did ask Buffy for forgiveness, but rightfully so, she knocked him over the head. In this episode, ends up going to the pub to drink with these guys who they all turn into basically Neanderthal monkeys. And Buffy saves everyone in the end and knocks the guy out, like I said, a couple times because he did deserve it. Let's be honest. He was a jerk. So episode 6, Wild at Heart. Opening scene, Buffy is being chased by a vamp on campus and everyone just acting like it's normal and not really paying any attention about it. Spike is watching, but he gets quietly pulled in by these 3 masked guys. And all end up going to the bronze, and Giles shows up to people. And it looks like Oz has this interest in this new girl who I suspect is a wolf. And it jumps to the scene with him and Willow. They're in bed, and it's like, I can't get enough. They look so freaking cute as always. How could anyone not love them together? But unfortunately, that comes to an end because Oz was out here cheating. How disappointing. And he ends up cheating with the wolf girl, and all good things gotta come to an end, huh? Basically tells her, like, I didn't have a choice. Like, really? Okay. Classmate ends up saving Willow because she's kind of going crazy and she's depressed over the Oz situation. She's missing and she's secretly trying to do spells, but then the wolf girl shows up. Oz ends up saving Willow. He ends up killing the wolf girl, and Buffy has to shoot him from attacking Willow, who's completely distraught and in tears. Oz ends up packing and he tells Willow, like, I gotta go and figure out this wolf stuff. And she's basically like, what about me? And she's like, what about me? But don't you love me? And he's like, life, I didn't love anything else. And he's gone. Episode 7, The Initiative. So the scene opens up with Buffy, and she's breaking everything, the slushy machine, and the guy that her and Willow had met, Riley, is basically at the table discussing her as a topic with his friend. Meanwhile, Spike's locked inside of a glass cage, and Buffy's on her way to a party, but Spike is mad because he meets another vamp, and he's more pissed when he learns that it's because of Buffy. Buffy ends up telling off her professor for being mean and insensitive to Willow's feelings, and Riley punches the guy Buffy banged, and that's what he get. Like, he was an a-hole. That's what he get. Come to find out, the guy Riley and his friends actually work for the professor, and they have a whole secret life. Riley shows up outside to see Buffy, but they're basically both working and don't know it. Spike shows up at Willow's dorm. He tries to attack her, but he can't, and it doesn't work because he has some sort of chip in his brain. And him and Willow basically start a dialogue, and I'm kind of like, Spike's actually maybe not that bad. Riley and his squad show up to capture Spike, and Buffy shows up to the rescue. They talk and walk, and end of episode. Episode 8, Pain. So Buffy opens up with fighting a vamp. Meanwhile, Angel watches from the bushes. Buffalo, Willie, and Anya, they basically are watching Xander digging, and Anya's drooling all over him. Buffy and Willow talk about Buffy planning a Thanksgiving dinner at Giles' place. Xander stays in with this girl. A native comes and slices the throat of this lady for revenge for what happened to his people. And Buffy is at Giles' place prepping for the dinner, and once she leaves, Angel shows up. Angel shows up to tell Willow that Buffy is in danger, but not to say anything to her. And Buffy ends up fighting the native, and he turns into blackbirds and crows and flies away. Willow tells Buffy and Giles the native's history and basically his plan. Xander shows up, and natives is out for blood. Just out for blood, not playing around. Didn't come to play. It's going to be what's going to be. Turns out Xander is sick and was infected with syphilis by the native spirit. Everyone starts arguing. Spike ends up on the doorstep, and he asks for help, and they basically tie him up. He ends up telling them, like, it's either kill or be killed. And Giles is like, I literally said that. Nobody listened to me. Buffy and friends, they fight the natives. Angel shows up to help them. Unfortunately, they killed the native. Angel dips, and the only person who feels bad was Willow. That Angel was there, and everyone looks at Buffy. Okay, so episode 9, Something Blue. So Willow reminisces over Oz and smells his clothing. Next, Buffy and her boo, Riley, are in the halls and they're planning a picnic. Buffy and Willow talk about bad boys and Riley and how Buffy likes the guy and how Angel was a bad boy who hurt her feelings. Like ends up being tied up in the bathtub for questioning. Oz is really gone, and Willow learns when she finds his belongings that like he's definitely not coming back. Later on at the Bronze, Willow gets drunk and Buffy tells her like she just gotta let go and go through the pain. And Willow does a spell to heal herself, her heart, but the spell actually basically like doesn't work and ends up being a spell on Giles, and Spike ends up escaping. Yeah, it starts affecting everybody, and even Spike and Buffy are supposedly getting married. Giles is blind. Xander and his girlfriend are attacked by demons, and Willow is asked to basically be a demon or work with the demons, and she's like, nah, I'm just gonna go help my friend. And she breaks the spell, and she ends up making them cookies because she feels guilty. And Buffy ends up telling Riley that basically it was all a joke. Episode 10, Hush. So the professor is giving out a lecture and she basically calls Buffy to the front with Riley, and next thing you know, they making out, and there's a scene that changes that goes to like this Freddy Krueger inspo theme, where this little girl is singing about a man in the dark holding a cube. And then we realize that it's just a dream. Spike is just chilling at Giles' house, his apartment. Girlfriend arguing about orgasms. But later on, Spike is annoyed at Xander because they end up being roommates because Giles is like, I need my space because my girl about to come over. Next thing you know, nobody can speak because these creepy ghouls have come into town. And they basically took everybody's voices. They're going around stealing hearts, 7 hearts. Buffy and Riley come face to face with their weapons after both of them end up fighting the enemies. Riley ends up breaking the thing, and her voice is released. They end up being like, well, I guess we have to talk about this now.